Tonight, we're not just telling a story. You feel it before it even begins, the rustle of silk, the whisper of wind through carved jargas, the faint scent of sandalwood smoke curling from distant courtyards. You step into a world where mirrors do not merely reflect faces, but the weight of history, memory, and duty. A world where even a glance can shape legacy. Tonight, this is your world. You don't know it yet. But today, we'll echo through time. Even the smallest gesture leaves a mark on eternity. Now close your eyes. Let your awareness pull away from the present. The air shifts, the sky tilts strangely overhead. You wake up in the year 1623. In the heart of Agra, the sunlight is soft, refracted through carved marble screens, painting gold and ember across the courtyard stones. The scent of fresh clay and wet stone drifts in, mingling with the faint musk of incense from a distant temple. You are not a visitor. You are someone who belongs here. Yet is new enough to notice every detail with the sharpness of a first breath. You are a scribe in the royal court, entrusted with observation, with words, with memory. Your ink-stained fingers, your careful hand, your eyes trained to notice even the smallest imperfection, all are your tools. Today, every gesture, every line, every reflection will matter. Stepping outside, the world is alive with sound. The distant clatter of horse hoofs on stone, a flute's plaintive note echoing from a garden pavilion, the low murmur of courtiers in conversation. Your feet touch the warm marble and you feel the pulse of the empire beneath you. Each step carries weight, not only of your own existence, but of the countless generations who have walked these halls before. The courtyard is quiet, but the quiet is not emptiness. It is the presence of centuries, contained in every carved column, every inlaid stone, every flowing fountain. The water reflects the sky in a silver sheen. Yet it does more than mirror. It holds memory. You bend to touch the surface and feel. The chill seep through your fingertips, like the ghost of countless hands that have dipped before you. A gardener moves past, his hands skilled, trimming jasmine and marigold, pruning carefully so that every branch aligns with order and beauty. You notice how even labor is poetry here, the smallest details attended to with reverence. Myth might suggest chaos, grandeur, and spectacle. Reality hums softly with patient craft. Unseen yet vital, you follow the soft hum of activity deeper. Into the palace, the Zenan lies ahead, hidden behind latticed screens. Through the filigree, you glimpse women moving silently, their silk garments brushing the floor, their laughter light yet controlled. They weave between lanterns, tending candles and cushions, tending whispers and secrets alike. Their world is intimate, contained, and intensely observed. The scent of rosewater and sandalwood is stronger here. You inhale and feel a quietening of the mind. The palace is more than stone, marble, and paint. It is a living organism, breathing in rhythm, with its people, its labor, its rituals. You are both intruder and participant, observer and actor, caught in the delicate tension of presence and awareness. You walk toward the library, a sanctum of knowledge and quietude. The doors, carved with arabesque patterns, open under your touch. The smell of old ink and polished wood wraps round you. Scrolls and bound manuscripts line the shelves, silent yet speaking volumes. Your fingers hover above the spines. Each scroll has history, each manuscript a memory. You feel the weight of time in your hands, and with it, responsibility outside. The sky darkens to the soft blues and pinks of early afternoon. The shadows lengthening across courtyards and fountains. The palace gates frame the horizon, a lattice of stone and light. Beyond them, the city hums, vendors calling, oxen trudging, children playing. all is small in comparison to the empire contained within these walls. Yet each element, each sound, each motion contributes to the vast rhythm of life. You are summoned to the Emperor's pavilion. The approach is quiet, deliberate. Your footsteps echo softly on the polished marble. A courtesan pauses, adjusting her veil. Her guard straightens imperceptibly. You notice their movements with the careful attention of someone accustomed to reading the unspoken. This is not spectacle. It is survival, integration, and the art of quiet understanding. Within the hall, sunlight spills through delicate yoli work, scattering gold and shadow across the floor. You take your place, seated quietly, observing. The Emperor does not look at you, yet you feel his presence in every gesture, every pause of breath, every fleeting glance across the court. Time slows, each second stretched into awareness. A mirror stands near the Emperor's seat. You glance at it. For a moment, you expect reflection, clarity, reassurance, and yet it refuses. The glass seems opaque, almost breathing, as if holding back centuries of observation, secrets, and consequence. Your own face is only partly visible, fractured by the play of light and shadow. You recognize in that fractured image the essence of the day to come, complexity, nuance, and the subtle demands of attention. The air carries a quiet warning, gentle yet insistent. Today will require not only observation but understanding, not only entrance but reflection, not only presence but integration into a rhythm that stretches far beyond the moment. You breathe slowly, letting your awareness sink into every detail. The scent of incense, the cool marble underfoot, the distant sound of water, the murmur of human effort. You feel the hum of history beneath your skin, the pulse of generations of scribes, scholars, courtiers, and artisans, each weaving a story into the palace. Your own thread, delicate and careful, joins theirs. The day will unfold like a miniature painting, every detail intentional, every movement imbued with meaning, every shadow, every light carrying weight. Even now, before the day has truly begun, you understand the subtlety of your role. You are observer, participant, chronicler, witness, inheritor. You are aware that every choice, every perception, every moment of attention shapes not only what will be remembered, but how it will resonate. The palace, the empire, the history contained. Here, all are alive, and all are watching, and so the day begins. You inhale the heavy scent of marigold and jasmine, feel the marble cool beneath your fingers, hear the soft echo of distant laughter and footsteps. You step forward, fully immersed, aware, present. Every movement matters, every glance counts, and today will echo through time. Before your eyes fully open, the world asserts itself in subtle, unsettling ways. Something burns your nose, sharp and insistent. The air carries the mingled scent of rotting leather, dust and sweat. Not yours, but someone else's. You realize you slept in it last night. Or perhaps it clings to these walls, ingrained. Over years of unwashed textiles and hurried movements, the fragrance is both offensive and strangely grounding. You inhale again. Shallowly, you will adjust, or you will not. Your body aches as you push yourself upright. Muscles long unused in this precise tension protest. A dull throb in your shoulders reminds you that comfort is not a currency here. You glance round the room. Rough wooden beams, cracked plaster, the faint outline of a woven mat on the floor. No velvet, no silken drapes, only the stark reality of labor and containment. You barely remember how you arrived. The corridor outside is alive with subtle motion. Servants shuffle silently, heads bowed, carrying clay pots or trays of food. Their eyes flick briefly toward you, not in curiosity, but assessment. Every gaze weighs your presence. Measuring belonging, the Empire does not coddle the unobservant. You feel suddenly small, conspicuous in ways that knowledge cannot defend against. Surprise historical fact. The Mule Court was not a place of effortless grandeur for all, even within palaces. Sanitation was a challenge. Stone corridors remained damp after rains. Wooden floors warped from neglect, and even the most meticulous arrangements could not mask the occasional stench of uncollected waste. Yet life continued, persisting, breathing, undeterred. The smell of food carries over from the kitchens, overcooked lentils, faintly spoiled ghee, pungent spices. You watch a cook flip a flat bread on a hot iron pan. The bread is uneven, charred at one edge, doughy at another. Myth would suggest flawless abundance. Reality is subtler, harsher. Survival depends on adaptation, on noticing what is edible and what is not. You step into the courtyard. The sun is still low, painting long shadows. Across the carved marble, you feel the sting of heat on your neck, the sharp contrast with the chill in the shaded corners. A bird takes flight, startling you with its sudden motion, wings slicing the air with crisp sound. The world is vivid, even unforgiving, in ways you had not imagined. Every surface seems textured with past use, stone floors grooved by countless feet, walls dulled by years of smoke and rain, fountains encrusted with mineral deposits from centuries of water flowing over marble. You reach out to touch one, smooth, cool, and yielding, and feel the subtle tremor of history beneath your fingers. Each step, each touch, reminds you that you are in a living, breathing chronicle. Your stomach reminds you of its own needs. Hunger, subtle but persistent, gnaws quietly. A tray of dried fruit sits neglected in a corner. You take a fig, tasting its dryness, the sugar muted. Water is drawn from a clay jar, slightly earthy. Barely sweet, the simplicity of survival is. Humbling, you are reminded that even in the midst of empire, the human body demands attention, and the body's limits are merciless. A sudden breeze carries the scent of smoke and wet earth. Somewhere, a brazier has been lit, perhaps to chase off the night chill or to prepare the morning tea. The aroma is comforting, yet foreign, an unsteady mixture of warmth and irritation. You breathe it in, letting it fill your senses, forcing awareness into each inhalation. The world is relentless in its demands on your perception. You catch movement from the corner of your eye, a child scurrying along a shadowed corridor, carrying a small basket of coins. The child pauses, glancing at you, a fleeting moment of recognition. Then they disappear, swallowed by the palace's endless corridors. In that brief encounter, you sense the economy of attention. Every glance counts, every observation matters. You move carefully, feet barely making sound on the stone floor. The echo of each step seems exaggerated, intrusive. Even your own body feels alien. A vessel suddenly attuned to micro-signals, the hum of distant voices, the shift of dust on stone, the brush of cloth against the wall. This is a world that rewards observation and punishes negligence. His servant pauses near, balancing a tray of water vessels. One wobbles, water spills silently, soaking the edge of a stone step. The servant curses softly in a dew, kneels, wipes the liquid with a cloth. You notice the precision of the action, the practiced economy of movement. Every gesture, however small, carries consequence. You stumble into a hallway and nearly collide with a monk, his robes rustling in muted rhythm. He glances at you, then continues. Carrying a scroll wrapped carefully in cloth, you sense reverence, urgency, and purpose in his stride. Your own presence seems disruptive, yet unavoidably noted. The first sensory shock is not only smell and sound, but the relentless weight of being observed. A sudden clatter in the courtyard startles you. A tree dropped, metal against stone. The sound startlingly sharp in the still morning. Someone mutters, an apology. Another whispers reassurance. You feel your pulse quicken. In this world, every sound echoes judgment. Every small mistake is magnified by the silence round it. You breathe shallowly, trying to calm the surge of adrenaline. The palace gardens beckon, seemingly inviting calm. Yet even here the shock persists. The scent of marigolds and jasmine competes with the lingering odor of earth and waterlogged. You brush your fingers along petals, feeling dew soak into your skin. Tiny insects crawl along stems and leaves. The world is alive in minute, almost imperceptible ways. You are reminded that immersion is not only observation, but sensitivity to detail. You pause near a fountain. The water sparkles, reflecting lattice patterns above. A gentle drip echoes somewhere in the background. The sound is soothing, but not fully. It reminds you of relentless continuity, of small but persistent rhythms that never pause for comfort. The empire moves whether you participate or not, and your awareness is both gift and burden. You notice the distant sound of horses, cavalry trotting along stone pathways, hooves striking marble, metal stirrups ringing faintly. The sound is distant, yet it resonates within the walls. Power moves in precise rhythm, and every action carries both risk and observation. You feel the delicate balance between presence and survival. Your stomach twists again. Your body reminds you of hunger, thirst, and fatigue. You taste the stale bread in your mouth. Feel the dryness of your throat. Each sensation, each small discomfort, reinforces reality. Luxury is a narrative, entrance is fact. Every breath, every movement, every sensory intake contributes to your survival. Your understanding, your integration into this palace of subtleties. Thematic anchor, greater than you're not just a visitor. You are a witness to the pulse beneath grandeur. With each inhale, each step, each careful observation, you align yourself with this rhythm. The sensory shock is not merely discomfort. It is an immersion, a call to awareness, a reminder that perception is survival. The day has barely begun. Yet the first impressions leave an indelible mark. Every sound, smell, touch, and motion compounds into a layered experience, teaching attentiveness, humility, and presence. You are aware of yourself in the tapestry of the palace, your body, senses, and mind intricately intertwined with centuries of human effort. You pause, take a deep breath, and let your awareness settle. The shocks remain, smells, sounds, textures. Yet they are now part of your perception, integrated, acknowledged. You feel a quiet strength emerging, subtle but insistent. The world has asserted itself, and you have responded. The empire watches, alive in all senses, and you have not faltered. The morning light continues to stretch across courtyards and corridors, illuminating the subtle imperfections and beauties of the palace. You feel your pulse align with the rhythm of this space. The first sensory shocks transformed into a delicate attunement. Observation becomes presence. Discomfort becomes awareness. Shock becomes immersion. With every heartbeat, every breath, every step, you move forward, prepared to navigate the complexities, rituals, and consequences of the day ahead. The palace remains alive, vivid and demanding, and you, attentive, aware, and alive, are now fully part of it. The sun rises high now, and with it, the quiet intensity of the palace comes into focus. The first sensory shocks of morning settle into your skin, mingling with the awareness that survival is a rhythm, not an event. You inhale slowly, letting the cool marble air fill your lungs, trying to attune to the unspoken rules that govern each footstep, each gesture. Your first task is simple in phrasing, but complex in execution. Stay alive long enough to reach midday. The Empire does not offer comfort. Food is irregular, water uncertain, and the weight of observation omnipresent. You move cautiously through the corridor. Noting the subtle shifts in activity around you, servants carry trays of steaming lentils, bowls of rice, small loaves of bread. The smell is enticing. Yet the danger lies in appearance. Spoiled ghee or improperly stored grain could bring illness as swiftly as neglect brings punishment. Your stomach protests, a dull pang that reminds you of fragility. You pick a small piece of bread, dry and cracked at the edges, and chew slowly, savoring the sensation of sustenance even when it is modest. Water from a clay jar cools your throat. Earthy but clean enough for the moment, you drink with intention, feeling each swallow anchor you in the present. Survival, you realize, begins with careful attention to the simplest acts. Every corridor, every stairwell, every archway presents potential hazards. A guard shifts position suddenly. A servant drops a pot. The palace pulses with motion, each sound amplified by the echoing marble. You learn quickly, the smallest oversight, a slip, a misstep, a misread glance, can carry consequences far beyond expectation. The palace demands alertness, not fear, but the two are often indistinguishable in the first hours of the day. You pass the kitchens again. Steam rises from large cauldrons, carrying the pungent aroma of spices, cardamom, cumin, turmeric. You notice the precision with which cooks move, their knives slicing swiftly, hands seasoned with experience. Each action is deliberate, each ingredient balanced for flavor, preservation, and nourishment. You understand that even in abundance, the Empire respects no one who isn't attentive. Eyes are the hardest part. The gaze of others, courtiers, guards, women of the zenana, wandering children, measures you. You sense judgment in the way. They glance, assessing competence, worthiness, belonging. You try to walk confidently, yet inside, his storm of doubt rages. What if they notice I don't belong here? You carry yourself carefully, adjusting posture, softening steps, calibrating tone and expression. The slightest misalignment might reveal your inexperience. Your outsider status, the palace functions like a web. Every strand is observed, every vibration noted. Even those who seem unconcerned contribute to a network of awareness that you cannot ignore. The sun climbs, heating the courtyard stones. Sweat collects at your temples, trickles down your spine. You pause at a fountain to drink and let your fingers trail in the water. The cool liquid is temporary relief, a fleeting luxury. Round you, the Empire hums, indifferent to individual discomfort. Survival is measured not in comfort, but in endurance, in the capacity to persist amidst imperfection. You notice laborers working quietly, their faces etched with concentration. A mason levels stones for a newly laid pathway. A gardener trims hedges with meticulous precision. Each movement is part of a larger orchestration. You recognize that skill, patience, and observation are survival tools as vital as food or water. They are the unseen currency of competence in a world that watches continuously. In a quieter corridor, you pass the Emperor's chambers. The air shifts subtly. It carries incense, silk, and something faintly metallic. Perhaps the scent of polished armor. Guards stand rigid, their posture perfect, eyes sharp. You feel the tension of hierarchy pressing upon you, a reminder that survival is as much about social navigation as it is about physical endurance. Every step, every gesture is measured for appropriateness. You find a small alcove to rest momentarily, observing without being observed. A tray of dried fruits sits forgotten in a corner. Figs, dates, tiny sweetmeats. You sample carefully. Mindful of moderation, the flavor is rich and fun. Grounding and alerting simultaneously, you realize that small indulgences must be managed. Survival is a careful balance of need and restraint. A sudden clatter pulls you back into awareness. Someone has dropped a metal pan in the kitchens, the ringing sound echoing sharply against marble walls. Voices rise briefly, then fall into hurried whispers. Your pulse quickens. Distraction is a danger. Awareness is survival. You recalibrate, focusing on every subtle sensory cue, letting the palace reveal itself incrementally. Food and water are only part of the challenge. Hygiene is subtle but persistent. You notice the grime collecting in corners, the faint layer of dust on floors, the streaks of mud where boots have passed through the courtyard. Even with careful attention, the body absorbs the environment. You wash your hands in a basin, feeling the cold water seep into your skin, an attempt to maintain dignity and prevent disease. Time seems to stretch. You move through corridors and gardens. Attuning to the rhythm of the day, birds call from latticed. Balconies, leaves rustle faintly in the wind. The palace breathes round you. Every sound, every movement is both a threat and a guide. Observation becomes instinct. You learn to anticipate motions, predict sounds, navigate invisible currents of attention. Even the simplest task, crossing a courtyard, carries risk. The sun highlights small imperfections in marble. Shadows hide hazards. A misstep could invite ridicule or reprimand. Yet you move with measured steps, adapting to the demands of a space that is beautiful, complex, and indifferent. Survival is not bravado. It is attentiveness, integration, and careful negotiation of every sensory detail. Children run past briefly, carrying messages, baskets, or whispered gossip. They pass without pause. Yet their movement reminds you of the subtle power of awareness. Even fleeting interactions contribute to the fabric of life here. You sense that your presence, though quiet, participates in this web. Observation and restraint are the currencies of survival. A guard nods subtly in your direction. The gesture is imperceptible to anyone else, but noticed immediately by someone. Attuned, you feel a moment of reassurance, recognition, even subtle, is survival. It signals comprehension of unspoken rules, alignment with invisible structures. You breathe more steadily, integrating the palace's rhythms into your own internal clock. Lunch is modest. Rice, lentils, a small piece of bread. You eat slowly, appreciating sustenance while noting texture, aroma, and temperature. Every sensory detail informs your understanding of life here. Even in abundance, there is fragility. Every bite, every sip is deliberate. Survival is practiced in moderation, attention, and awareness. By midday, you feel the full weight of emotion. Your muscles ache, your senses are heightened. You notice subtle cues, the direction of wind through the corridors, the faint murmur of servants preparing meals, the shimmer of sunlight on polished marble. You feel simultaneously integrated and separate, a participant and an observer, aware that survival depends on both attentiveness and reflection, internal conflict. Maybe I can endure this day. Maybe I am already failing. Every choice, every glance, every step carries weight. If I misread the smallest signal, I risk consequence. You shake off hesitation and continue forward. Observation and movement are intertwined. Awareness and endurance are inseparable. Every corridor, garden, and chamber teaches lessons of subtlety, patience, and presence. You begin to understand that survival in this palace is not only physical but psychological, balancing confidence with caution, attention with restraint, observation with discretion. A tray of water is delivered to a distant pavilion. The attendants. Eyes meet yours briefly. You nod, acknowledging recognition without disrupting the flow of the day. Small gestures accumulate into trust. Awareness compounds into competence. Every sensory input, every response shapes your day. Your survival and your perception of the empire. By the afternoon, the palace becomes a symphony of subtle chaos, children laughing and running, servants carrying messages and utensils, guards pacing in patterns, wind-stirring curtains, fountains spilling water into channels. Every motion is observed, every sound registered. You feel the rhythm of life embedded in the palace itself. Survival is not a matter of brute force. It is assimilation, attunement, and careful attention. You pause at a shaded corner, letting the heat of the afternoon fall round you. Sweat drips slowly, but your breathing has steadied. The palace has revealed itself incrementally, layer by layer. You feel connected to the people, the space, the rhythm, and the demands of existence here. Observation has become understanding. Attention has become adaptation. Survival is not merely endurance. It is integration. The thematic anchor, greater than you, are not just surviving. You are learning the rhythm of life beneath grandeur. Each sensation, each observation, each careful movement reinforces awareness, presence, and competence. You are no longer merely navigating corridors. You are participating in a living, breathing continuum of history. The sun descends slowly, shadows lengthening across marble floors. You recognize that survival will not end with this day. It is continuous, subtle, persistent. Each step, each observation, each choice informs not only immediate safety but ongoing understanding. By the time the first stars appear, you are attuned, immersed, and aware, ready to face the palace's next lessons. The morning's survival has given way to deeper awareness. You move through the palace corridors, sensing not just the material world but the weight of invisible expectations, ritual, devotion, and belief woven into every stone and arch. The air here feels different, heavier, fragrant with incense. Tinged with the echo of prayers, you step into the temple chamber. Incense curls upward, soft and persistent, stinging your eyes while soothing some part of your soul. Your breath comes slower, deliberate, sensing with the rhythm of chanting voices far away. The scent of sandalwood, camphor, and faint floral herbs lingers on your skin, embedding itself in memory. The temple is alive not only with sound, but with centuries of silent devotion. You kneel on the cool marble floor. The touch is grounding, yet humbling. Even if belief is not fully yours, you bow your head, feeling the pressure of expectation. Every muscle relaxes involuntarily. You sense the weight of countless others who have knelt here before you, their presence lingering, like a faint vibration in the stone beneath your hands. Thematic anchor, greater than you are not just a servant. You are the offering. Each repetition of the thought settles deeper, an echo threading through your awareness, a reminder that your existence is intertwined with the continuum of ritual. Chants rise and fall round you, Persian and Sanskrit, words flowing softly, lilting, carrying history. You do not understand all of them, but their cadence is familiar in its intimacy. Sound becomes a guide, shaping your emotions. Marking passage through time, you breathe in rhythm, feeling body and spirit adjust to the temple's subtle commands. A priest moves past, robes brushing the floor, a scroll clasped in one hand. His eyes meet yours briefly. There is recognition, not of you personally, but of your presence within the sacred order. You feel the pressure of alignment. To exist here is to honor the sequence, to step correctly in time and space. Mistakes are unnoticed only when invisibility itself is mastered. The temple is layered with textures, cold stone under your knees, polished wood of pews, delicate silk drapes framing niches where idols stand in gentle repose. The light filters through carved windows, dancing across the floor in geometric patterns. You notice the subtle play of shadow and brightness, each shift marking time, creating an imperceptible rhythm that pulses quietly through your senses. You close your eyes briefly, Listening, the world outside, the gardens, the palace corridors, the hum of laborers seems distant, almost irrelevant inside. Each breath, each echo, each rustle is amplified. You realize that rituals are not merely acts of devotion. They are a framework for understanding the world, a guide for movement, thought, and awareness. Candles flicker along the walls. Their light is soft, golden, painting shadows that dance in slow motion. You trace your eyes along the contours of idols, the curves of carved reliefs, the delicate inlay in the stone floor. Each detail is significant, each pattern intentional. The palace teaches through observation. The temple teaches through ritual. Both demand attention. You participate fully, letting your body mirror expectation. Kneeling, bowing, inhaling incense, maintaining presence. Even as doubt flares briefly, do I truly belong here? The repetition of motion, breath, and thought steadies you. Ritual, you realize, is a discipline of the senses, a method to anchor mind and body in a reality larger than self. Outside, faint sounds drift. A bell, the distant laughter of children, the scrape of sandals on stone. Inside, you are cocooned in layered devotion. The contrast teaches subtle patience. Life in the Empire is lived simultaneously on multiple planes: the physical, the social, the spiritual. Success depends on sensitivity to all three. You approach a small alcove where offerings are ranged: flowers, fruits. Small coins, the marigolds, smell pungent and sweet, the fruits faintly sticky, polished from handling. You participate quietly, placing a token of your own. The act is simple, almost imperceptible. Yet it anchors your presence within the flow of centuries. Offering is not only gesture, it is assertion of participation and integration into the rhythm of the sacred space. Thematic anchor, greater than you're not just a servant. You are the offering. Each repetition embeds awareness, connecting your being to ritual, community, and time. You recognize that the smallest action, a bow, a breath, a placement of flower, resonates beyond the immediate. Ritual extends consciousness outward, linking body, mind, and history. You rise slowly, letting your hands fall gently to your sides. Movement is deliberate. Attuned to expectation, the temple responds. Light catches your sleeve, stone hums faintly underfoot, incense drifts along new currents. You feel observed, not by a person, but by centuries of devotion etched into space. Observation becomes awareness. Awareness becomes integration. A soft chant begins in a distant chamber. You are drawn by the sound, following without thought. Steps are quiet on marble, careful to respect the sanctity of the path. The voices rise, intertwining in complex rhythm, Persian syllables dancing with Sanskrit phrasing. You close your eyes briefly, letting the sound wash over you. The mind finds stillness in repetition. The body finds alignment in rhythm. A priest hands you a small scroll. Its ink faint, edges delicate. You trace the words with your fingers, feeling the texture of history. Symbols, phrases, names. Each is a thread in the tapestry of empire, connecting present to past, observer to participants long gone. Ritual is not merely repetition. It is conversation across time. And now, you are part of it. The day moves onward, but the temple remains an anchor. You hear footsteps of others entering and leaving. Each brings new sense, new sound, new motion. Yet you are centered, attuned to rhythm. Breathing aligned with incense, movement with chanting. The sensory flow continues to build internal balance. Survival was attention. Ritual is integration. Awareness is mastery. You pause at the temple's threshold. Light from the courtyard shifts subtly, highlighting carved reliefs, dancing across Marble in patterns that feel alive. Wind carries the faint scent of jasmine and marigold. Mingled with lingering incense, you feel the rhythm of the empire pulse in sync with your own heartbeat. Ritual has not only anchored you, it has made you fluent in the silent language of space, time, and devotion. In a quiet corner, you watch a young acolyte pour water onto a small flame. The act is mundane, precise, reverent. You notice the shimmer of flame, the flow of water, the silent interaction with expectation. Everything here is layered with meaning. Everything matters. You feel yourself internalizing these lessons. Observation, participation, subtlety. Ritual is not spectacle. It is immersion. Discipline, integration. The temple hums with energy as afternoon approaches. Your senses are heightened yet calm. You hear soft murmurs of instruction, faint footfalls, the rustle of robes against stone. Light shifts gradually across intricate carvings. You are acutely aware of texture, smell, sound, temperature. Presence has become awareness. Awareness has become participation. You are learning the rhythm beneath the grandeur. You kneel again, placing your hands lightly on the cool marble. Breath deepens, eyes close. You repeat silently to yourself. You are not just a servant. You are the offering. The phrase settles, echoing in your chest, in the stone beneath your knees. In the space round you, the temple has transformed. From a place of observation to a place of integration, the empire's ritual teaches presence, patience, and subtlety. And you have begun to absorb these lessons. You leave the temple slowly, mindful of every step. Light catches marble and silk. Incense drifts in patterns invisible but tangible. You sense that survival and ritual are intertwined. Entrance is grounded in attention. Observation becomes participation, and participation becomes fluency in the rhythm of the empire. Thematic anchor, final echo. Greater than you are not just a servant. You are the offering. The repetition has become internalized, the core of your being, guiding each movement, each breath, each interaction. Ritual has shown you that integration, awareness, and subtle participation are as essential to survival as food, water, or shelter. By the time you step back into the courtyard, the day has deepened. You feel the empire not as observer, but as participant, aligned with cycles of light, scent, sound, and movement. You are not merely present, you are attuned, immersed. Alive to the pulse of ritual, belief, and observation. You step from the quietude of the temple into the sunlight, and the palace unfolds before you like a living map of authority. Each courtyard, each balcony, each corridor hums with the presence of power, invisible yet undeniable. You sense immediately that law is not written merely on paper here. It is etched into the very rhythm of movement, the posture of guards, the alignment of courtiers. A procession moves through the main courtyard, a governor on a finely decorated horse, attendants surrounding him in an aura of silent obedience. You feel the pulse of expectation in the air, the subtle bend of backs, the measured steps of servants, the silence of observers. Authority here is not shouted. It is absorbed through proximity and gesture. You notice the smallest cues, the shift of a head, the angle of a shoulder, the manner in which hands are folded or extended. Power speaks in body language, in ritualized motions, in unspoken agreements. You realize that survival in the empire is contingent on understanding these silent lexicons. One misread glance, one step out of line, could ripple consequences you have yet to imagine, past future layering, greater than centuries from now. Historians will wonder what his name even meant. The thought strikes you, ephemeral and heavy. Names are temporary. Presence is permanent. Those who wield power often leave behind echoes rather than clarity. And yet today, that echo dictates life and death, comfort and hardship, observation and obedience. You walk along the edge of the courtyard, Careful not to step on shadows or cross invisible lines of attention, the hierarchy here is layered like a complex mosaic. At the top, the emperor or regional ruler, surrounded by ministers, courtiers, and guards. Mid-level, skilled artisans, scribes, and administrators. Lower, laborers, servants, and apprentices like yourself. Each level exists in relation to the other. Boundaries carefully maintained yet subtle in execution. Your own position is precarious, undefined, yet crucial to observe. You realize quickly that law does not protect you, power does. Each decision, each interaction, is a negotiation of status and perception. You feel the weight of countless eyes, assessing, judging, confirming or denying your place. Survival here depends on calibration, not confrontation. You pass a pair of guards standing motionless beside a doorway. Their armor glints faintly in the sunlight. Their eyes follow movement with unwavering attention. They are not cruel, not yet, but their gaze communicates the omnipresent potential for a correction. You adjust your posture, soften your steps, letting each action align with expectation. Courtiers move with quiet precision. You notice the manner in which they present petitions, whisper advice, exchange subtle signals. The interplay is a dance, a ritualized hierarchy that demands awareness, patience, and subtlety. Your role, though minor, is to observe, adapt, and anticipate. Power is a language, and you are learning its grammar. A messenger arrives, dismounting swiftly, offering a sealed scroll to a minister. You watch the exchange closely. The bow, the hand placement, the quiet murmur. Each detail is intentional. Each motion carries meaning beyond the immediate. You understand that compliance, respect, and recognition of rank are not optional. They are mechanisms by which the empire maintains its structure and continuity. You pause near a fountain, letting water trickle between your fingers, thinking about the balance of force and obedience. The courtyard is a theater of law, observed, rehearsed, and reinforced in subtle, almost invisible ways. Punishment for misalignment is rarely violent in public, but consequences exist in diminished trust, whispered correction, or exclusion. Awareness becomes your shield. The midday sun beats down. You notice the hierarchy not just in movement, but in space itself. Steps closer to the emperor's throne are rare, deliberate, sacred. Proximity conveys trust and influence. Distance conveys vulnerability. You adjust your path instinctively, understanding that alignment with structure is a form of survival. You witness a minor dispute between attendants, a spilled tray, a whispered reprimand, a careful restoration of order. There is no spectacle, no raised voices, merely a demonstration of how hierarchy mediates conflict. The lessons are subtle. Maintain composure, honor roles, avoid unnecessary visibility. Survival relies on mastery of these invisible grunts. You pass a small library adjoining the courtyard. Scribes work quietly, ink flowing from quills onto parchment. The hierarchy here is subtle but absolute. The emperor's edicts, ministers, directives, scribes' transcription. Each layer observes, interprets, and enforces. You feel that understanding hierarchy is not merely social, it is epistemic, knowledge, authority, and power interwoven, each reinforcing the other. A young page crosses your path, carrying a tray of scrolls. He bows precisely, eyes averted, demonstrating the social grammar you are beginning to internalize. You mimic his movements subtly, feeling the internal alignment of body and awareness. Survival requires not only obedience but the appearance of it, calibrated to the expectations of others. Thematic anchor. Greater than you are not just a participant, you are a reflection of order. Each action, each gesture, each silent observation reinforces your integration into the empire's layered structure. Awareness becomes participation, understanding becomes survival. You approach the governor again. This time, you study not just the physical presence but the aura of authority, the subtle sway of attention, the quiet murmurs of counsel, the precise cadence of speech. Influence here is incremental, almost invisible, yet devastating if mismanaged. You realize that law in this empire is inseparable from hierarchy and perception. A minor servant steps incorrectly, eliciting a sharp glance, but no words. You notice the tension, the silent correction, and the rapid adjustment. Even minor misalignment carries weight. Even minor compliance conveys safety. Observation is your guide, patience your ally. Subtlety your armor. You continue along the garden paths, the greenery offering respite and perspective. You notice benches occupied by courtiers. A few women of the Zenan are watching discreetly from latticed windows. Their presence is constant, silent, influential. Every layer of hierarchy observes and reinforces others. Survival is not rebellion. It is attunement, careful movement within prescribed grunts. Sunlight falls across intricate mosaics embedded in the courtyard floor. Each geometric pattern feels deliberate. A reminder that order is encoded not only socially but architecturally. The empire teaches through every medium: stone, marble, vegetation, water, and the choreography of human presence. You internalize these lessons, understanding that law is lived, not written, enforced through observation and expectation rather than solely through edict. A bell tolls, the midday ritual begins. You witness courtiers taking positions, guards aligning precisely, servants adjusting trays and scrolls. The entire courtyard is synchronized, a living testament to hierarchy and power. Participation is subtle but imperative. Your movements, while minor, must align with these larger grunts. Misalignment invites notice, attunement invites acceptance. Past-future layering callback, greater than centuries from now. Historians will wonder how order was maintained in these halls. The thought hums faintly as you continue. What matters is not the distant observation, but the immediate execution. Alignment, perception, survival. You pause to watch an exchange between a mid-ranking minister and a court painter. Words are minimal, gestures precise, phases controlled. The subtlety of power fascinates you. Influence is invisible. Authority is suggested. Obedience is cultivated. You understand that in this empire, mastery of hierarchy, not brute strength, dictates outcomes. By mid-afternoon, you feel the patterns of power internalized. When to speak, when to remain silent, when to observe, when to act. Awareness of social currents has become instinctive. Your presence, once tenuous, now flows with the rhythm of the courtyard. Survival and participation are inseparable. Thematic anchor. Final echo. Greater than you are not just a participant. You are a reflection of order. The phrase embeds itself in your consciousness, a guiding principle for a movement, breath, and thought. Each gesture, each glance, each step reinforces alignment with hierarchy, securing your place in the delicate web of empire. As the afternoon wanes, shadows stretch across the marble, signaling the gradual transition to evening. You feel the subtle energy of authority shift. Guards relax slightly. Courtiers adjust positions. Servants conclude small tasks. Even in the apparent relaxation, hierarchy persists, continuous. Unbroken, inevitable, survival remains dependent on careful observation, subtle compliance, and deliberate alignment. You step into a smaller courtyard, noticing the interplay of light, shadow, and motion. The empire teaches subtly but insistently. Power is everywhere, expressed in posture, gaze, timing, and rhythm. To survive is to absorb these lessons, to participate without error, to integrate observation, reflection, and action. By the time you leave the courtyard for the gardens beyond, The lesson is clear. Survival in the Mule Palace is as much about understanding and aligning with hierarchy as it is about enduring hardship. Law is a living organism, expressed in every gesture, every glance, every breath of air in these corridors. Awareness is your shield, and attunement your sword. The courtyard empties, leaving you alone with the weight of the day. Your limbs ache. But it is not the physical strain that presses hardest, it is the quiet isolation. The palace hums faintly, life continuing in distant corridors. Yet here you stand, a singular presence under the long shadows of walls and archways. You clutch the same tool you have held since sunrise. Its surface is one, its weight familiar, yet unbearable in its persistence. Every movement reminds you of the endless repetition of service, obedience, observation. The world feels slow, almost suspended, as if the empire itself is holding its breath to watch your entrance. Maybe I'm not meant for this, the thought creeps in unbidden. Curling round your consciousness, you try to dismiss it. Yet the rhythm of the palace amplifies every doubt. Each echo of footsteps, each distant laugh, each scrape of sandal on stone magnifies your insecurities. The internal struggle coils tighter, almost physical in its intensity. The walls of the palace loom, marble and stone, ornate yet imposing. Feel like sentinels silently judging your every motion. You sense the weight of centuries of expectation pressing down. Every servant, every courtier, every observer has played their part in this complex choreography. And now, you must continue, not for recognition, not for reward, but simply to endure. You find a quiet corridor and lean against the cool stone. The shadowed recess offers minimal comfort, yet your mind is restless. Doubt gnaws. Am I insignificant? Will my effort matter at all? Each repetition of labor, each carefully measured gesture of compliance, now feels hollow without acknowledgement or understanding. The sun moves slowly across the sky. Its light shifts subtly through the latticed windows, painting patterns of shadow and gold across your face. The beauty of the palace feels irrelevant in the grip of your internal struggle. You notice the faint smell of incense lingering from the morning ritual, the coolness of marble, the distant sound of water trickling from a fountain, yet none of it soothes. Maybe the gods made a mistake. The whisper of this thought is almost sacrilegious, yet impossible to silence. You feel the absurdity of existence in this moment. Vast empire, monumental architecture, centuries of hierarchy, and yet, here you are, small and uncertain, questioning every purpose. You wander aimlessly through a smaller courtyard, observing, servants moving efficiently, courtiers whispering, guards aligned precisely. Everyone else seems fluent in the rhythm of palace life. You feel the contrast acutely. Their confidence highlights your doubt. You begin to internalize your errors, your hesitation, imagining the silent judgment of those who have perfected obedience. The weight of invisibility presses down. Your voice, if you spoke, might shatter the quiet corridors, yet silence dominates, shaping your awareness. The palace does not ask for your presence to be vocal. It demands alignment, observation, and patience. The internal conflict is the unseen. Trial, a relentless interrogation of identity and purpose. The afternoon wears on. You find a bench in a secluded garden courtyard. You sit, head in hands, listening to the rhythm of life continuing round you. The birds sing, the fountains trickle, the breeze shifts gently through jasmine and marigold. Yet the emotional pressure does not lift. You are acutely aware of isolation, of being observed yet invisible, participating yet disconnected. Your reflection in the polished marble of a nearby wall catches your eye. The figure you see is familiar yet strange, a presence that endures, yet doubts itself. You wonder how much of survival is external obedience versus internal reconciliation. The palace demands both, Failure in either realm has consequences that are subtle but profound. Each breath becomes deliberate, a method to calm the spiraling tension. You notice the faint brush of silk from passing courtiers, the murmur of distant voices, the soft cling of coins or utensils. These sounds, so ordinary to others, are now the markers of your isolation, reminding you of the world's continuity beyond your control. The sun tilts toward the west, shadows lengthen. Creeping across the gardens and courtyards, you sense the day slipping away. Yet the pressure remains. Tasks uncompleted, lessons unlearned, alignment imperfect. Each thought tightens the chest, constricts the lungs, and fuels the quiet panic beneath your surface calm. You pause near a fountain, dipping hands into the cool water. Its touch is grounding but fleeting. The reflection shows only fleeting stability. Emotions surge and recede like tides. You realize that physical endurance is easy compared to the subtle trial of emotional survival. The Empire tests not only the body, but the heart, the mind, and the spirit. Internal conflict continues. Greater than am I worthy of this place? Am I capable of the patience, the observation, the alignment? The question echoes unanswered, forming a loop of quiet torment, and yet you cannot leave. Leaving is not permitted, nor survivable in your role. You notice a young acolyte practicing, gestures learned from older attendants. Their motion is fluid, confident, precise. You watch, a mixture of admiration and envy rising. Each repetition seems effortless. Yet you know it took years to internalize. You realize that mastery of patience, compliance, and ritual is as much emotional as it is physical, and you are at the beginning of that journey. The day fades into evening, the sun's last light glinting on polished marble and ornamental fountains. The courtyard empties, leaving echoes of steps and whispered conversation. You are alone with your internal storm, a quiet battle of self-doubt and persistence. The palace around you is magnificent, serene, yet irrelevant to the turmoil within. You pace slowly, noticing the subtle changes in light. The scent of jasmine thickening in the cooler air, the distant sound of evening bells. The palace has shifted, but the emotional weight remains. The architecture, rituals, and hierarchy have not changed, only your internal perception has intensified. Survival is no longer about movement or compliance. It is about enduring the quiet, relentless scrutiny of your own mind. A slight breeze brushes your face, carrying petals from nearby flowers. You close your eyes, letting the world enter through sensation rather than thought. The tension remains, yet awareness brings faint relief. Survival is no longer just physical, it is emotional. A steady practice of patience, endurance, and self-reconciliation. Final reflection. Greater than maybe I am meant for this, or maybe I am meant to enjoy it until I am. The thought is tentative, fragile, yet it carries the first strings of resolve. The palace has tested you, exposing the vulnerability beneath your outward compliance. You recognize that emotional endurance is as vital as obedience, as subtle as hierarchy, and as continuous as ritual. The moon rises, casting silver light across the courtyard. Shadows stretch and contract, the night embracing the palace in stillness. You find a secluded bench and sit, allowing yourself a moment to breathe fully. The internal conflict has not vanished, but the rhythm of the palace, of ritual, of power, and of survival has begun to settle within you. You understand, finally. That endurance is multi-layered. Survival of body, observation of hierarchy, and reconciliation of self. The day has been long, the emotional weight immense, and yet, through repetition, reflection, and presence, you begin to integrate the lessons. Preparing for whatever trials the Empire may yet place before you. Thematic anchor. Greater than endurance is not only obedience. It is the quiet mastery of self. You repeat it silently, feeling it embed in thought. body, and awareness. Emotional breakdown has not defeated you. It has revealed the pathway toward resilience, subtlety, and eventual fluency in the complex rhythms of new life. The sun dips low, and the courtyard is bathed in a golden haze. You feel the subtle tension in the air, a quiet warning of the trial to come. Guards shift positions with deliberate precision. Whispers ripple through the corners of the palace. And you know instinctively that a line has been drawn, not in stone, but in expectation and consequence. You walk slowly toward the center of the courtyard, each step measured. The murmurs round you grow faint but persistent, a current of anticipation. Rebellion in a distant province, a military skirmish, or perhaps an internal dispute. The exact cause is unclear, yet its presence is undeniable. The palace breathes it, carries it in the shuffle of sandals, the tilt of heads, the tightening of jaws. The emperor or regional ruler steps onto the balcony overlooking the gathering. Their presence commands immediate silence, and yet you feel an invisible force pressing you toward the center, toward participation. The moral crossroads is not announced. It is insinuated through gaze, gesture, and the subtle choreography of expectation. You notice two men at odds near the edge of the courtyard. One is a soldier, proud and rigid, the other a clerk, slight and trembling. Their dispute is minor to an outsider, but here, under the emperor's gaze, it becomes a matter of principle, of allegiance, of survival. You sense that your response, or even your observation, carries weight. The crowd falls silent. You hear only the soft rustle of silk, the faint clink of metal, the distant call of a falcon. All eyes converge, and for a moment, you are aware of your singular presence in this intricate web. Do you obey the implicit command to step aside, to remain invisible, or do you act? Voice your opinion, intervene, risking censure, punishment. Or worse, you feel your pulse quicken. Every instinct tells you to remain aligned with hierarchy, to respect the invisible line of authority, to preserve survival. Yet another part of you, quiet but persistent, wonders whether courage, integrity, or truth demands intervention. You weigh the consequences silently, balancing fear against principle, patience against impulse. The emperor raises a hand, a subtle gesture that carries the weight of immediate judgment. You realize this is a test not only for the disputing men, but for everyone observing. Courtiers, attendants, guards, and yourself. The palace has trained you for obedience. It has trained you for observation. But now, it tests moral perception, the capacity to act rightly under pressure. You take a step forward instinctively, then pause. Your mind races. Will obedience preserve life? Will action preserve honor? Can I navigate both? Every movement, every breath is deliberate. You feel the eyes of the courtyard pressing into your consciousness, assessing, judging, silently recording. A courtier whispers to another. A guard shifts slightly. You sense the tension vibrating through stone and air. The trial is not only external but internal, a confrontation with your own principles, fears, and survival instincts. You recognize that every decision here resonates beyond immediate perception, touching legacy, reputation, and the subtle currents of history. The soldier's voice rises slightly, demanding recognition, justice. The clerk trembles but meets the challenge with quiet resolve. You feel the moral energy of the moment, palpable and electric, like the first gust of a monsoon wind before it crashes across the courtyard. Your body tenses, every muscle attuned to consequence. You consider speaking. Perhaps a word of guidance, a quiet suggestion, a subtle intervention. Yet every syllable feels like a gamble, misstep. Misalignment or misperception could result in shame or punishment. The palace teaches patience, observation, and measured response. But this is the subtle test of conscience, of courage under surveillance. And segment teaser, greater than what happens next, will follow you into legend or oblivion. The thought embeds itself, a whisper against the roar of internal deliberation. You sense the turning point approaching, a decision whose weight will echo long after the moment passes. The Emperor's gaze sweeps across the courtyard. You feel the invisible line separating obedience from action, safety from consequence, life from censure. Every heartbeat resonates in your ears. You understand that the trial is not simply about the men before you. It is about your response, your alignment, your moral calibration. You watch the clerk carefully, noticing his subtle bow, the slight tremor in his fingers, the deliberate pacing of words. You realize that action here must be precise, tempered with awareness, and guided by both instinct and principle. Misjudgment is costly. Courage without discretion is dangerous. Your mind replays every lesson absorbed since entering the palace. Observation, compliance, attunement, patience. Now, all converge in a single moment. You weigh not only immediate survival, but the subtle echoes of history, the future scrutiny of your choices, the invisible threads connecting action to consequence. Across time, the courtyard feels suspended in a fragile equilibrium. Even the shadows seem to pause, holding their breath. The sounds of the palace, distant laughter, the rustle of silk, the soft clink of armor, become amplified in your awareness. Every detail matters. Every movement carries weight. You finally make a choice. Perhaps it is an utterance, a gesture, or a careful positioning of presence. The exact act is small, almost imperceptible, yet carries resonance. The courtyard responds subtly. Guards shift, courtiers nod. The disputing men adjust posture. You sense the equilibrium has been maintained. Barely, delicately, yet undeniably. A soft wind moves through the arches, carrying the scent of jasmine and marigold. The palace exhales, the moment passes, and yet the imprint of the trial lingers. You understand now that survival is intertwined with moral acuity, the ability to discern, to act with measured courage, to balance self-preservation with ethical awareness. You step back, allowing the natural flow of hierarchy and ritual to resume. The tension dissolves slowly, like morning mist evaporating under the sun. Yet internally, you are transformed. The trial has revealed the layers of your own conscience, the capacity for subtle courage, and the cost of misalignment with both principle and power. As twilight approaches, the courtyard empties. The emperor retreats to private chambers, guards realign, courtiers disperse, and the palace settles into quiet order. You remain for a moment, absorbing the echoes of the trial, recognizing the indelible lesson imparted. The empire is not only a realm of law and hierarchy, but a living test of conscience, perception, and ethical endurance. Thematic anchor, greater than every trial, is both mirror and measure. Your courage is visible, even when silent. The thought resonates, embedding in your awareness, a guide for future trials, internal or external. Survival now encompasses body, mind, and conscience. A delicate balance cultivated through observation, reflection, and deliberate action. Night begins to fall. Shadows deepen across courtyards and gardens. You feel the subtle energy of completion, a trial navigated, a moral crossroads encountered, and a personal equilibrium tentatively restored. The palace teaches slowly, persistently, and with infinite subtlety. Every moment of alignment, every gesture of conscience, every breath of patience has fortified you for the challenges yet to come. You walk toward the quieter corners of the palace, reflecting on the trial's implications. The moral crossroads is not a singular event. It is continuous, evolving, and interwoven with the subtle dance of hierarchy, observation, and duty. You feel the weight of history, the flow of power, and the necessity of measured courage pressing upon you. By the time you reach a secluded garden bench, the stars begin to pierce the evening sky. The palace hums with residual energy, a reminder that trials, both internal and external, never fully cease. Yet tonight, for a moment, you are reconciled with your actions, aware of the delicate balance maintained, and prepared for the next chapter of endurance and observation. The courtyard is quiet now. You sit, allowing the lessons of the day to settle, acknowledging that the trial has expanded your awareness, sharpened your perception, and tested the subtle boundaries of courage, obedience, and conscience. Survival is inseparable from moral navigation. Power is inseparable from ethical acuity. You enter the bustling bazaar near the palace, where the air is thick with the scent of spices and leather. Merchants shout, their voices overlapping in a rhythmic chaos. Each offering wares that speak of distant lands and hidden craftsmanship. You are surrounded by the pulse of commerce, a living testament to the empire's prosperity and its invisible hierarchies. Every coin jingles like a tiny declaration of value, a whispered reminder that labor, loyalty, and survival are quantified. Here, you notice a single copper nail displayed on a worn cloth. A day's work could buy it, yet it seems extravagant in this context, emblematic of how even the smallest object is steeped in cost, effort, and consequence. A knife rests nearby, gleaming faintly under the fading sun. 2 days' labor for a blade, not for decoration, but for the essentials of survival. Each transaction, each exchange of goods, carries the subtle weight of human toil, of invisible hands that sweat, bend, and strain to bring something tangible into your grasp. You reach out to touch a woven rug, the fibers rich and textured beneath your fingers. The merchant watches closely, calculating both opportunity and trust. Every trade is a negotiation of perception, skill, and courage. You sense that your understanding of economy must extend beyond coin and commodity. It is a literacy of survival, patience, and observation. The streets teem with artisans, blacksmiths shaping iron, potters turning clay on willing forms, weavers meticulously knotting threads. Each laborer embodies the translation of skill into survival, sweat into necessity, effort into value. You pause to watch, absorbing the rhythm of life sustained through economy, craftsmanship, and endurance. Surprise fact, in this city, a single day of unskilled labor might earn enough for bread, water, and a meager portion of meat. Yet the same effort invested in precision craftsmanship could secure shelter, recognition, and the subtle leverage of economic influence. You consider how many lives are quietly measured by such margins. You navigate toward a stall where spices are displayed in pyramids of color. Saffron, cardamom, turmeric. The aroma is intoxicating, layering your senses with heat, sweetness, and subtle bitterness. Each pinch is a product of distant labor, trade routes spanning deserts and mountains, empires and kingdoms, all converging in this moment. The economy is a silent architecture, connecting hands, sweat, and stories across continents. A merchant counts coins with deliberate precision, fingers moving like dancers across copper and silver. You realize that observation itself is a skill, noting scarcity, abundance, the way a hand hovers, the subtle hesitation that reveals negotiation power. Survival in this world requires more than physical labor. It requires reading the invisible currents that guide trade, social position, and opportunity. Water sellers move through the crowd, balancing large clay jars upon their heads. Each jar contains the liquid equivalent of life itself. You recognize the precarious balance. A single misstep can shatter sustenance, disrupt survival, and expose vulnerability. The tools of economy are not limited to coin and product. They extend to skill, balance, timing, and awareness. You reach a cart stacked with textiles, vibrant silks that shimmer in the late afternoon sun, The price is high, yet the value transcends. Mere commerce, status, aesthetic pleasure, and social currency are woven into every thread. You consider the hierarchy embedded in these transactions. Some may afford to display beauty, others labor to support its creation, and you, as observer and participant, are enmeshed within both realms. The palace craftsman appears, transporting delicate carvings for architectural decoration. You sense the subtle entrance required, precision under pressure, invisibility under scrutiny, labor performed without applause. Each chisel mark and polished surface represents more than skill. It is the currency of survival, trust, and legacy. You feel the weight of this knowledge pressing upon your consciousness. You move to a metal worker's forge, the heat washing over your skin. Sparks scatter like captured stars, illuminating faces coated with soot and sweat. Tool of survival surround you. Hammers, tongs, anvils, extensions of human skill and necessity. You recognize that these objects are both instruments of labor and symbols of entrance. A child apprentice watches silently, learning from observation. You remember yourself in this position, early steps, tentative motions, eyes wide with wonder, and caution. The economy of survival is learned gradually, through repetition, observation, and subtle imitation. Skill and endurance are inseparable, intertwined with awareness of consequence and opportunity. You notice that each transaction in the bazaar carries an undercurrent of hierarchy. Coins, goods, and gestures are weighted by class, lineage, and reputation. Even a minor merchant's refusal or acceptance echoes through the social fabric. You feel the subtle imperative. Awareness and adaptability are as crucial as physical labor in navigating survival. Bread, meat, rice, the essentials of daily life, are displayed alongside luxury items, jewels, perfumed oils, exotic fabrics. The juxtaposition is stark. Survival requires prioritization, foresight, and patience. Every choice, what to purchase, what to barter, what to observe, is a reflection of skill in navigating this layered economy. The day begins to fade. You wander toward a stall selling tools for daily labor: knives, needles, brushes, plows. Each item embodies hours of toil, mastery of craft, and the quiet endurance required to maintain life and order. You sense the rhythm of necessity, the interconnectedness of labor and survival, the subtle hierarchy embedded in access to tools and resources. You pause by a water trough, watching attendants draw water, noting the patience required to maintain balance, distribute evenly, and ensure none goes to waste. Survival is meticulous, a delicate choreography of effort, awareness, and discipline. You feel the subtle lesson. Life is sustained by understanding the mechanics of labor, value, and human interaction. Coins pass between hands, each transaction observed and noted, recorded in memory and hierarchy. You recognize the empire as a living system, where economy is inseparable from power, survival, and endurance. You inhale deeply, carrying the scent of spices, sweat, and leather, letting it saturate awareness. A craftsman hammers metal into shape, another stitches leather, a third polishes wood. Each motion is deliberate, necessary, and laden with consequence. You realize that every hand in the bazaar, every tool, every coin is part of an intricate dance, one that has persisted for generations. You, too, are a participant, an observer, and a student of this rhythm. As twilight approaches, you walk slowly through the narrowing streets, observing transactions winding down. Merchants count their coins, apprentices secure their tools, and the air carries a soft mix of dusk, smoke, and jasmine. You understand that survival is not merely about having wealth or tools. It is about awareness, patience, and the subtle navigation of human effort and desire. You pause near a small forge, watching the last sparks of the day die down. The blacksmith's hands are steady, precise and tireless. Each strike is a meditation on skill and endurance. You realize that economy is inseparable from human will. Effort is converted into sustenance, tools and opportunity. Survival, therefore, is not only physical but strategic, requiring insight, timing and patience. Night falls, lanterns flicker, casting warm light across the emptying streets. The lessons of the day linger in your mind. The value of labor, the hidden power of observation, the necessity of awareness, and the quiet endurance of survival. You carry these truths back toward the palace, understanding that economy, the exchange of labor, goods, and skill, is the quiet architecture of life, the invisible scaffolding that sustains an empire. Thematic anchor, greater than survival, is not only in what you earn, but in what you observe, endure, and understand. You repeat it silently, letting it settle in your awareness as the city quiets and the palace looms in the moonlight ahead. The palace stands before you in all its grandeur. Yet you realize that what is visible is only a fraction of its truth. Stories, legends, and myths float like dust through the corridors, tales of flawless order, divine favor, and cinematic splendor. Yet the reality is quieter, slower, and far more intricate. You walk along the marble halls, observing servants moving efficiently, courtiers whispering discreetly, and guards stationed with meticulous care. The palace is alive, not as a stage for a heroism or myth, but as a network of labor, hierarchy, and human endurance. The myths you once believed dissolve under the weight of subtle observation. A chord musician tunes his sitar, the notes wavering and human, imperfect. You realize that beauty in this world is not a constant. It is a moment, fragile and fleeting, reliant on skill, patience, and circumstance. The story is told of eternal perfection or exaggerations. The truth is labor, repetition, and human imperfection. You pass the zenana, the women's quarters, and notice laughter, whispered conversations, and small acts of defiance. Hollywood tales of passive princesses vanish. Reality is layered, dynamic, and intimate. Even here, subtle power, negotiation, and resilience shape lives quietly, hidden beneath the spectacle that outsiders assume to be absolute. Thematic anchor, greater than your not just warrior. You are the consequence. You repeat it silently. As you observe the dualities, beauty and labor, spectacle and repetition, myth and reality, each contradiction teaches you a deeper understanding of the empire, its people, and the subtle currents of survival. In the garden, fountains spurt rhythmically, and petals drift slowly on the breeze. Myths claim that the gardens were pristine sanctuaries of leisure and romance. The truth is different. Gardeners toil at dawn and dusk, attending to every plant, trimming, watering, and nurturing with labor that is invisible to the casual eye. You recognize the gap between story and lived reality. The emperor's court is no exception. Courtiers maneuver subtly, using words, gestures, and glances to gain favor. The myths of absolute power and effortless rule dissolve in the presence of meticulous strategy, social awareness, and persistent labor. Power, you observe, is not only inherited or commanded. It is cultivated in nuance and observation. You notice the cooks preparing lavish meals, the spice-laden aromas tempt you. Yet the truth behind them is a relentless routine of chopping, stirring, washing, and timing. Culinary myth conceals labor, patience, and precision. You sense the rhythm. Each dish is a small monument of human endurance and coordination. Even in the royal library, myths of effortless wisdom fade. Scribes bend over manuscripts for hours, transcribing, illustrating, and preserving knowledge. Ink stains fingers, I strain under candlelight, and mistakes are corrected meticulously. Knowledge is painstakingly produced, not passively inherited. You consider the myths surrounding mule warfare, glorious battles, heroic charges, cinematic victories. The reality you glimpse is logistics, exhaustion, strategy, and incremental achievement. Victory is less about dramatic heroics and more about endurance, observation, and careful planning. Every maneuver depends on human skill and subtle coordination. In the marketplaces, the myths of opulence confront the truth of scarcity and trade. A merchant's display may suggest abundance, yet every object has cost, labor, negotiation, travel, and vigilance. You feel the delicate balance between appearance and reality, understanding that survival, prosperity, and social standing depend on navigating both. You pass the stables, where horses shift nervously in their stalls. The myth is of magnificent steeds effortlessly serving emperors. The reality is daily grooming, feeding, cleaning, and patience. Each animal's elegance is a product of constant attention, invisible effort, and careful management. You encounter a young page practicing calligraphy. The myth of effortless grace dissolves under your observation. Every stroke is deliberate, every curve rehearsed, every line a product of persistence and training. Beauty and mastery, you recognize, are cumulative, dependent on quiet, repeated labor. You pause near a fountain, letting the cascading water drown out the palace's subtle murmurs. Reflection brings clarity. Myths simplify, condense, and idealize. Reality, however, is complex, layered, and human. Labor, patience, observation, and subtle endurance define daily life, shaping both ordinary and extraordinary outcomes. The evening brings shadows, soft and forgiving. The myths recede into legend. You are left with tangible truth, nuanced and textured. Every corridor, garden, courtyard, and hall carries evidence of effort, adaptation, and resilience. The palace itself is a living testament to human persistence, not a static monument of perfection. You observe the guards as they perform their evening rounds. The myth is of unyielding discipline. The truth reveals subtle fatigue, improvisation, and silent communication. Hierarchy is maintained not only through authority but through understanding, observation, and nuanced coordination. In a secluded courtyard, you watch as an artisan paints miniature details onto a manuscript. The myth is of effortless artistry. The reality is a process of patience, correction, and iterative skill. You notice the rhythm, ink, brush, pause, inspection, a delicate dance of human precision. Night falls fully. Lanterns glow, casting a soft golden hue across the palace walls. The myths have been examined, tested, and reframed in your mind. The empire's grandeur is real, yet it is sustained by labor, observation, subtle power, and relentless endurance. Beauty, authority, and survival are all products of meticulous attention to detail. You feel a new understanding settling within you. To navigate this world, you must see beyond legend and spectacle. Observation, patience, and subtle awareness are as vital as obedience and labor. Survival and legacy are intertwined with understanding the layers beneath outward appearances. Thematic anchor callback. Greater than you are not just a warrior. You are the consequence. The truth of this statement resonates. More vivid now that myths have been deconstructed. Each choice, action, and observation carries real consequence, often invisible, but deeply consequential to survival, hierarchy, and endurance. As the palace quiets, you wander through shadowed corridors, absorbing the lessons of myth and reality. You sense that wisdom is not inherited from stories or legend, but discovered in attentive observation, subtle action, and patient endurance. You carry these truths like lanterns, illuminating paths that were once obscured by narrative. Flourished in the gardens, petals shimmer under moonlight, and fountains murmur gently. Myths promise romance and effortless beauty, yet you now perceive the human effort sustaining them. Labor, attention, and subtle endurance create both aesthetic and social harmony. Your understanding deepens. Survival, prosperity, and legacy are all contingent upon mastering the interplay of observation, labor, and nuance. The night air carries distant music, soft and imperfect, reminding you that beauty in this world is transient. Human and painstakingly crafted, the myths of effortless perfection have faded, replaced by appreciation for the invisible hands, persistent labor, and patient observation that sustain every moment of imperial life. You find a quiet bench, reflecting on the day. The contrast between legend and reality has reshaped your understanding. Myth simplifies, reality teaches patience, observation, and the quiet art of consequence. You realize that your survival, influence, and mastery of the Empire's subtle rhythms depend not on spectacle but on understanding the hidden forces that sustain it. Final reflection: greater than reality is patience, endurance, and observation. Myths are only echoes of what is achieved in quiet diligence. You repeat it silently, carrying it as both shield and compass for the days, trials, and choices to come. The morning light spills into the palace corridors, warm and deliberate. You feel it press against your skin, illuminating every detail: polished floors, carved arches, the soft glow of gilded walls. Today, you sense, is pivotal. Something in the air, a subtle shift. A quiet tremor signals a turning point in the Empire, in your own path, and in the invisible threads that connect action to legacy. You walk through the library, where scrolls and manuscripts are stacked meticulously. The stories they carry are layered with wisdom, knowledge, and precedent. Yet today, a single page catches your attention, a message, a decree. Or perhaps a hidden insight that shifts the trajectory of events. The past and future converge here, in the quiet folds of ink and paper, and you sense the weight of legacy pressing gently, insistently. Upon your shoulders, courtiers move like shadows, whispering observations and speculations. Some glance at you, aware of your presence. Others do not. Yet every eye, every gesture, carries weight. You understand that a turning point is not announced with fanfare. It is felt, observed, and acted upon. The subtle currents of influence and consequence now swirl round you, and your next actions will determine whether history will remember you or forget you entirely outside. The gardens are alive with soft rustling and muted bird calls. You pause by a fountain, its water flowing in patterns both deliberate and chaotic, a reflection of the Empire itself. You remember the myths you once believed, stories of effortless glory, unbroken continuity, divine favor. Today, reality asserts itself. Power is contingent, fragile, and responsive to careful attention. Legacy is shaped not by grand gestures alone, but by observation, courage, and subtle decisions. Legacy line callback, greater than this day, will echo through time. You repeat it silently, letting it anchor your thoughts as every step carries you closer to the heart of change. You feel the resonance of history in the floors beneath your feet, the arches overhead, the soft shadows shifting as light filters through latticework. A messenger appears, carrying tidings from distant provinces: rebellion, famine, or perhaps a strategic opportunity. The weight of the Empire is suddenly tangible, pressing upon your consciousness like a stone balanced delicately on a pedestal. You realize that the choices made now, by emperor, minister, or you, will ripple through generations, shaping lives, structures, and stories long after your footsteps fade from these halls. You ascend to the terrace, where a soft wind carries the scent of jasmine and sandalwood. From here, the city sprawls like a living map: bustling markets, narrow alleyways, flowing rivers, and gardens. You sense the delicate balance between growth and decay, prosperity and hardship. The turning point is neither singular nor dramatic. It is the accumulation of countless small decisions, unnoticed acts, and quiet endings. You notice a young scribe working diligently, unaware of the broader currents around him. Yet in his labor lies the essence of legacy: recording, preserving and transmitting. Every stroke of the pen, every careful observation, contributes to the enduring memory of empire. You realize that legacy is as much about unseen contributions as it is about visible power. The emperor approaches, walking with measured grace. You feel the weight of expectation, yet also the silent invitation to act, to align, to observe, or to intervene. Each movement, glance, and subtle gesture is a test of awareness, judgment, and courage. Today, your decisions, deliberate or inadvertent, may tip the balance between honor and regret, influence and obscurity. You observe the artisans at work in the palace, painters, jewelers, and metal workers. Each absorbed in meticulous tasks, their labor embodies the quiet, enduring essence of legacy. Glory is temporary. Skill, dedication, and subtle contributions endure. You sense that your path today mirrors theirs, a delicate interplay of effort, timing, and awareness that will leave an indelible mark on history. A sudden disturbance arises, a miscommunication between guards, a minor dispute in the marketplace below, or a whisper of dissent. The turning point becomes tangible, no longer abstract. You watch, consider, and weigh your response. To act rashly risks immediate consequence. To hesitate may forfeit influence, legacy. You understand, demands careful calibration of courage, observation, and patience. You move to a balcony overlooking the courtyard. Sunlight strikes your face, illuminating the subtle details of the palace, carvings, frescoes, and inscriptions. You reflect on the passage of time. Emperors, ministers, and soldiers have all walked here, leaving traces of presence, action, and consequence. You are part of this continuum, a link in the chain, responsible for preserving, shaping, or redirecting the course of events. Courtiers whisper of opportunities and threats, each conversation carrying layers of meaning. You overhear hints of diplomacy, alliances, and potential upheaval. Each subtle detail is a key to influence, each gesture a possible pivot point in the unfolding story. The turning point is now a test of perception, judgment, and timing, the crucible in which legacy is forged. You notice the palace clock striking noon, a reminder that time moves inexorably forward. The present is fleeting. Yet every decision now reverberates into the future. You understand that legacy is not bestowed. It is earned through measured choices, thoughtful observation, and deliberate action. The echo of today will shape memory, history, and perception for generations. A royal decree is read aloud. You sense the subtle shifts in the court. Alliances strengthen, tensions ease, and new hierarchies emerge. You recognize that the turning point has arrived not with grandeur, but with nuance, observation, and quiet intervention. History is being written in real time, and you are an attentive participant. The gardens provide a moment of reflection. Soft petals drift in the breeze, fountains ripple gently, and the air is filled with muted fragrance. You recognize the duality, beauty and labor, power and patience, myth and reality. Legacy is sustained not only through action, but through awareness, endurance, and subtle guidance. You pause to observe a craftsman finishing a delicate miniature. The intricate detail reflects patience, observation, and skill, the very principles that define enduring legacy. You understand that your choices today are akin to each stroke of the brush, deliberate, precise, and resonant across time. As the day wanes, shadows stretch long across the palace. You feel the weight of accomplishment and anticipation intertwined. The turning point has been navigated, decisions made, and awareness sharpened. Yet the consequences will unfold slowly, echoing outward into the corridors of history. You step into a quiet alcove, reflecting on the lessons of observation, patience, and subtle influence. Every action, every choice, every attentive glance contributes to legacy. The Empire itself is a living testament to these principles, and you are now acutely aware of your role in its unfolding story. Thematic line, greater than this day, will echo through time. You whisper it, feeling its resonance, the weight of history. The subtle currents of influence and the consequences of decisions are now tangible within you. You understand that legacy is not immediate. It is the sum of countless observed moments, deliberate choices, and enduring efforts. Night begins to settle over the palace. Lanterns flicker softly, illuminating halls where centuries of history are embedded in stone, wood, and paper. You carry the awareness that your presence, choices, and observations today contribute to this continuum. The turning point has passed, yet its echoes will persist, shaping both immediate and distant memory. You walk through the gardens one last time before retiring. The fragrances of marigold, jasmine, and rose mingle with the cool night air. You understand that the Empire, like the gardens, thrives on care, patience, observation, and attention. Legacy is not inherited. It is nurtured, moment by moment, decision by decision. The stars appear overhead, delicate points of light against the dark canvas of night. You recognize the subtle truth. Legacy is both fragile and enduring, shaped by countless small choices, quiet observation, and deliberate action. Today's turning point has left its mark, and you carry its lesson forward, prepared for the unfolding chapters yet to come. Final reflection, greater than legacy is built in moments, measured in observation, and preserved through deliberate action. You repeat it silently, letting it settle into your awareness as the palace quiets and night envelops the Empire in soft, reflective calm. The sun has dipped behind the palace walls, and a soft twilight settles over the gardens. You feel the cool air brush your skin, carrying the mingling fragrances of jasmine, rose, and damp earth. The world slows, as if holding its breath, inviting you into a space of reflection and calm. Tonight, the rhythm of life shifts from labor, observation, and decision to rest, contemplation, and quiet intimacy. You wander through the corridors, hearing only the soft echoes of your footsteps on marble floors. Servants whisper, closing shutters and securing the palace, their movements precise and unobtrusive. You sense the delicate choreography of evening rituals, each motion purposeful, yet hidden. Life in the Empire moves with intention. Even in the unseen corners, lanterns are lit, casting a warm glow over walls adorned with intricate frescoes. Shadows flicker softly, revealing hidden depth in carved arches and delicate latticework. You pause to observe the interplay of light and shadow, aware that night transforms the familiar into something intimate and reflective. The world seems to breathe quietly alongside you. Not in the zenana. Women prepare for the evening. Soft fabrics rustle, mirrors catch fragments of candlelight, and faint laughter punctuates hushed conversations. The myths of passive seclusion vanish. Reality reveals nuance, subtle influence, and the rhythm of private power. You watch quietly, absorbing the lesson, even in rest. Awareness, grace, and attention shape lives. You approach a courtyard where fountains murmur gently. Water ripples across the stone, reflecting lanterns and the fading glow of sunset. You kneel briefly at the edge, watching as each droplet creates concentric circles that expand, intersect, and vanish. The rhythm reminds you that life, like water, flows continuously, each moment echoing in subtle, imperceptible ways. Thematic repetition, greater than you were never just a servant. You were the story. The words linger in your mind, a quiet mantra as night deepens. Each action, observed or unobserved, contributes to the living tapestry of the Empire, even in repose. You are part of its enduring rhythm. You move toward your quarters, the air cool against your skin, Carpets muffle your steps, soft curtains frame windows that open onto quiet gardens, and the palace settles into silence, punctuated only by distant calls of night birds. You breathe deeply, feeling the weight of the day lift slightly, replaced by the soft assurance of ritual and rhythm. You notice a tray of simple food set aside for the evening: fresh bread, dried fruits, and spiced water. Eating is deliberate, a mindful practice, a ritual of sustenance. You savor each bite slowly, aware that nourishment is not merely physical, but also a preparation of body and mind for the contemplative hours ahead. The evening air carries a subtle chill. You wrap yourself in a soft shawl, the fabric brushing gently against your skin. Touch becomes a source of grounding, a reminder that physical presence and comfort are as essential as observation and awareness. Each sensation, silk, stone, air, and fragrance, weaves together, creating a layered understanding of calm, comfort, and preparation. Outside your window, lanterns illuminate the gardens in a gentle, wavering glow. Petals shimmer, and the fountain's murmurs fill the night with rhythm and consistency. You lean against the sill, absorbing the quiet spectacle, letting it embed. In memory, nightfall is not emptiness. It is continuity, a subtle reassurance that the world persists. Nurtured by unseen hands, quiet labor, and enduring attention, you lie down upon your bedding, ranged neatly, the texture of woven cloth beneath your fingers, every detail, pillow, mattress, and blanket, is designed to soothe, to cradle. The body after hours of entrance, the ritual of sleep begins with attention, awareness, and deliberate preparation, transforming rest into an art of survival, reflection, and rejuvenation. The palace corridors grow quieter. Footsteps fade into distance. You feel the soft vibration of distant conversations and murmurs, imperceptible yet persistent. Awareness persists, even in rest. Observation continues. Subtle and patient, you recognize the discipline inherent in this rhythm. To rest fully is to remain part of the living empire. Attentive even in stillness, a gentle breeze slips through open windows, carrying scents of earth, flowers, and distant spices. You close your eyes briefly, letting the sensations deepen, wrapping round awareness and thought. Every inhalation, every exhalation becomes a meditation, a conscious alignment with rhythm. Patience and the enduring heartbeat of the palace dot in the distance. You hear the soft plink of water in the fountains, a reminder of continuity. Even as the night stretches endlessly, labor, observation, and consequence do not cease. They pause, waiting to resume with the dawn. You feel the subtle lesson. Rest is part of entrance, contemplation part of action, and night a necessary counterpoint to day. You turn your attention inward, reflecting on the subtle lessons of the empire: hierarchy, labor, observation, consequence, and entrance. Each insight settles like a stone in your mind, foundational and enduring. The stories of the day, both myths and realities, interweave, becoming part of your own internal landscape. Soft whispers of the palace staff, the muted clatter of distant kitchen tools, and the rhythmic breathing of other residents provide a comforting symphony. You lie still, attuned to the textures of presence, the quiet rituals, and the delicate dance of attention and entrance that sustains life here. You recall the lessons of survival, labor, and observation from the marketplace, the library, the gardens, and the zenana. The empire has taught you patience, awareness, and resilience. Tonight, these lessons coalesce in quiet reflection, a subtle meditation on entrance, consequence, and the layers of reality beneath myth and spectacle. The moon rises slowly, casting silver light across the palace walls. Shadows lengthen and shift, creating a subtle interplay between illumination and darkness. You feel the soft rhythm of the night echo through your chest. Inhale, exhale, awareness, reflection. The world seems to breathe with you, persistent and patient, a companion in the quiet hours before sleep. Final thematic line: greater than you were never just a servant, you were the story. You repeat it once more, softly, allowing it to embed deeply into your consciousness. The night enfolds you, protective and gentle, carrying the accumulated wisdom, awareness, and endurance of the day into restful sleep. You drift slowly into unconsciousness, each breath measured and calm. The palace, gardens, and empire continue their rhythms round you, subtle and ceasing and enduring. You understand that to rest fully is not to abandon duty, but to integrate observation, reflection, and awareness into the continuity of life. The stars gleam above, delicate points of permanence against the darkness. You feel your own presence, woven into the night, observer, participant, and inheritor of lessons from labor, hierarchy, and subtle influence. Sleep, in this world, is not escape. It is preparation, reflection, and quiet engagement with the living history around you. Not in the final stillness, you sense that every choice, every observation, and every act, seen or unseen, will echo. Forward, the rituals of nightfall are both restorative and instructive, reinforcing awareness, endurance, and the subtle power of presence. You close your eyes fully, surrendering to the rhythm of night, the palace, and your own breathing. Each heartbeat is a quiet drum of continuity, a testament to survival, reflection, and the layered reality of the empire. The world persists, and so do you. Entwined in the delicate dance of observation, endurance, and quiet legacy, silent reflection. Greater than rest is not abandonment. Sleep is continuation, awareness, and quiet endurance. You carry this understanding into the deepest moments of unconsciousness, letting it guide your renewal for the dawn. The night has deepened, and the palace rests beneath a silver wash of moonlight. You lie quietly, feeling the weight of the days. Experiences settle gently into your chest. The echo of footsteps, the murmur of fountains, and the rustle of silk in distant corridors remind you that life continues, even in silence. You are not merely an observer. You are woven into the rhythm of this world. Your mind drifts to the stories you have witnessed, the labor you have observed, and the subtle acts that sustain empire and society. Myths have been revealed, truths have been absorbed, and the rhythm of reality pulses beneath every action. You sense the quiet power of accumulated effort, and it hums through your being like a distant drum. You reflect on the courtiers, the scribes, the artisans, and the women of the zenana. Each has contributed silently to the empire's tapestry, creating beauty, sustaining knowledge, and preserving hierarchy. The grandeur you once associated with effortless power now reveals itself as delicate, patient, and painstakingly maintained. Legacy is built in whispers, in hidden efforts, in patience outside. The gardens shimmer under the moon. Petals glint like small lanterns, fountains murmur soft secrets, and the air carries a medley of fragrances: jasmine, rose, sandalwood, and earth. You understand that beauty is sustained through vigilance and care, just as knowledge, power, and influence are maintained through observation and thoughtful action. Thematic repetition: greater than you were never just a servant. You were the story. These words linger as you exhale slowly, letting their weight sink into your consciousness. They are not merely a phrase, but a recognition. Your presence, attention, and endurance are part of something far greater than yourself. You remember the turning points, the subtle decisions, and the quiet acts of labor that define the day. Each moment carries its echo into the empire's unfolding history. You realize that even the smallest choices, an attentive glance, a careful gesture, a patient observation, resonate across time, influencing legacy in ways that are often unseen. Your attention drifts to the palace corridors, bathed in soft lantern light. The staff move silently, performing their duties with care and dedication. Even in rest, awareness persists. You sense that the rhythm of life, labor, observation, reflection, continues uninterrupted, a gentle testament to endurance and presence. You think of the lessons hidden in the mundane, the careful recording of manuscripts, the precise arrangement of gardens, the measured steps of gods, the repetitive tasks of cooks and artisans. The palace's grandeur is not merely spectacle. It is the cumulative result of countless quiet efforts. You carry this understanding as a lantern, illuminating the subtle textures of reality in your mind. You revisit the myths that once seemed absolute. Their illusions have faded, leaving only the textured, layered truth, that life in the Mughal Empire is sustained through attention, patience, and resilience. You feel a quiet gratitude for having observed this truth, for having understood the depth beneath the surface of legend. The night deepens further, stars glimmer overhead. Delicate points of light against a vast dark canvas. You sense the continuity of time, the persistence of history, and your small but meaningful place within it. Every breath, every heartbeat, and every thought contributes subtly to the living narrative you now inhabit. You consider the consequences of observation. To witness is to participate. To perceive is to act. Your presence matters, not in overt displays of power, but in the awareness and choices you carry forward. Each quiet act, each subtle insight, each patient observation builds the foundation for understanding, influence, and endurance. Reflection prompt, greater than would you have survived a single day in this world? The question hovers softly in your mind. It is not meant to judge, but to invite contemplation of resilience, of attention, of adaptability, and of the ways in which one engages with the world and its rhythms. You sense the empire around you breathing, moving, and enduring. The palace, gardens, and people exist in delicate harmony, maintained through labor, vigilance, and subtle awareness. You, too, are part of this continuum, carrying the quiet echoes of effort, observation, and presence into the hours of night. You notice the soft murmur of the fountains again, and the rustle of leaves as night winds pass through the gardens. These sounds, gentle and persistent, remind you that life continues even when unseen. The world does not pause for minutes, but responds to diligence, awareness, and careful stewardship. You reflect on the knowledge and understanding gained. That survival, influence, and legacy are interwoven with observation, patience, and endurance. You feel the subtle satisfaction of insight, and the gentle comfort of being attuned to the rhythms of this living, breathing empire. As your eyes close, the lantern's glow softens, and shadows merge with darkness. You carry within you the awareness that even in rest, in silence, and in the unseen hours, you are part of the story. Presence, attention, and endurance are quiet powers, shaping both immediate and distant memory. Final thematic line, greater than you were never just a servant. You were the story. You whisper it once more, feeling the resonance in your chest and mind. The empire, the palace, and the gardens cradle you gently, affirming continuity, presence, and quiet endurance. You drift fully into sleep, your body at rest, your mind at ease, and your consciousness carrying forward the subtle lessons of vigilance, labor, observation, and consequence. Night enfolds you like a soft shawl, protective and patient, allowing reflection to integrate into understanding, and understanding to prepare you for a tomorrow. In the final stillness, you sense that every action, choice, and observation, no matter how small, contributes to the living tapestry of empire. You are part of something enduring, subtle and intricate, your presence woven into history itself. You exhale slowly, feeling a sense of completion, calm, and alignment with the rhythm of life round you. Your mind, body, and spirit are synchronized, with the quiet pulse of the palace, the gardens, and the people who sustain it. You understand that to live fully is to observe, endure, and integrate, carrying the lessons forward with gentle awareness. The stars overhead shine as silent witnesses to your reflection and rest. Their constancy reminds you that legacy, hindrance, and observation persist beyond immediate perception. Your experience, insight, and awareness are now part of this continuum, a soft echo in the living story of the Mughal Empire. Let the question linger in your mind as you drift deeper into sleep. Could you have survived a single day in this world? You have lived it, felt it, and carried it with quiet attention. Sleep now, storyteller. You are part of the rare few who carry ancient voices in your blood. The empire rests. The gardens whisper, the fountains murmur, and you, at last, are at peace.